Welcome to today's webcast. This is on annotation solutions for surveyors with Label Genie. And Label Genie is a new tool we just released, and I've been doing a series of webcasts on how to use these for different project types, different workflows, different roles, and so forth. My name is Brian Lewandowski. I am one of the product managers here at CTC, and I'll be doing the presentation today. If you have questions, feel free to type them into the GoToWebinar system. I will address them most likely at the end, unless it's something quick I can do at that time. So at any point something comes to you, type it into the system and we'll address it when the time is right. So what is annotation or labeling like in Civil 3D today? When I think of this, I think of it being very time consuming. Why is it time consuming? Because, well, you have to pick and click almost every label. I mean, some label types you can insert multiple ones at once. You know, you can insert one and then kind of copy it around, but it's a pretty tedious exercise. And when something changes in your drawing, there's more data that comes in. Whatever the case, you have to move many of these labels. Sometimes they'll move with the object, like a line and curve label. But if it's just Mtext, right, you have to move that stuff around. And a lot of them might seem like, well, that's a no-brainer. That's what labeling is. But that's what we're trying to change with Label Genie. And we think we've done a great job with it, in fact. So what Label Genie does is allows us to label multiple drawings and objects, for that matter, at the same time. It's going to automate the vast majority of your labeling, and it's all sorts of labels. It's AutoCAD labels like Mleaders and Mtext. It's Civil 3D labels like segment labels or spot elevation labels, station offset labels. It works with your standards, meaning it just reads your Civil 3D styles, your AutoCAD layers, whatever it might be. It's working with your standards. So some of the things I want to talk about today is how does it relate to survey drawings, whatever we might be creating, their plats, a topo drawing, you name it, all kinds of options. And so a lot of this stuff is universal regardless of our role or the type of project we're dealing with. So for example, inserting thousands of labels at once. We can do this across multiple drawings at once. Some of the things I want to show you guys today are line and curve labels across multiple sheets, inserting Mtext, multiple Mtext fields all at once with embedded fields in them. Oftentimes, if you're used to using AutoCAD fields, you know, that's something where it links to the object. It kind of makes it behave like a Civil 3D label. We have to set up those fields for each and every label object. It's pretty tedious. We can insert Mleaders automatically in a drag state. We'll show you some northern easting labels and some station offset labels. We'll do some hatching of centroids where we're automatically reading the areas of hatches. And that's really just a sample of a lot of the different things you can do with Label Genie. And so I want to show you guys this stuff in action right in Civil 3D, so you can get a peek at Label Genie and how it might help you. And so what I want to start with is inserting a bunch of segment labels. And this often can be fairly tedious. And while we simply have to pick each object and it'll insert a segment label, and what I'm referring to here are these line and curve labels here, right, for calling out bearing and distance and so forth. If we've got a lot of them, it's pretty tedious. And as soon as something changes, right, we got to go back and reset and add those again. Well, what if we could just insert those all at once based on, say, a layer selection and a style selection? Well, that's kind of how Label Genie works. So let's launch Label Genie. And the first thing I get here, I'm going to jump into a different drawing. First thing I get here is my drawing selection. And those of you who have used our CIM Project Suite, some of this might look kind of like Data Wizard. We try to bring some consistency in terms of one app to the next, and so you might see some of that here. So we can be labeling our current drawing. We can include additional drawings. I'll show you some of that in a bit. And we can also be including XREFs. So it depends on where you're labeling. Sometimes we label in base files, other times we label in sheets. I'll show you both today. But today we're going to label in this base file, and we're going to label all of model space, though I'll show you how using layouts will work. Finally, over here, we're going to choose line and curve labels, but you can see many of the different label types we have to choose from. And if you choose one, just say Mtext, for example, so many different objects that we can anchor these things to. Okay, I'll show you a variety of these examples. We're going to start with line and curve. Like I said, we're going to anchor these to polylines. And if I choose this, here's where I can define my selection set. Now, if this is totally empty, it's going to label every single polyline it finds in this drawing. Probably not what I want. I could exclude certain ones, or I could include certain ones. I can pick this button right here, in fact, and just pick the object in the drawing, and then there's a layer it read from that object. It's my side lot lines. I can even click the check button down here, and it says I found 123 of these objects. Okay, sounds good so far. That's our anchor object. What is the anchor point? Well, with polylines and line and curve labels, there's only so many options. They're really just segment labels. I can dive into the details there and see what I'm labeling, line and or curve. I'm going to choose both. And then you'll notice we've got two tabs up here. If I click to the formatting tab, here's where I choose things like what kind of data is going to appear in the label itself, and what kind of styling or formatting to that label object I want. Okay, now depending on what type of label object you choose over here, this will vary on this screen. Notice this is grayed out right here because line and curve labels have in the style programmed already what they are going to label. But when we do Mtext labels, we'll be able to choose things like a polylines area. So I'm going to choose, and these are styles that come from my drawing. So my template, like we said, works with our standards. I'm going to choose a bearing over distance. And for my line style and my curve style, we'll choose a distance, radius, and distance over radius. I've got flip state and reversing. Okay, that's reversing of the bearing value in there. And then the flip state is flipping it to one line or to the other. We've got options to just let it come in as default, which is none, or flip all of them towards the centroid or away from the centroid. Lots of cool features there. We'll leave that at none at this point. And when I click add, it's going to take my settings and give me a confirmation. This is going to label 123 polylines. Proceed, yes. It executes. You can see it happen right on the screen there, and then it always gives me a little report. And we're going to get into in a bit labeling multiple drawings at once. And so these reports start to mean a lot more, right? What did it do in each drawing? Okay, here 123 labels added in this drawing. I hit OK and go take a look at what it did. Pretty straightforward, just native line and curve labels. Okay, pretty simple. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, well, that just inserts everything automatically at the center of the polyline, right? Well, what if I'm putting some things in drag state, right? This kind of thing. What does Label Genie do with that? Well, it'll recognize drag state and it won't change that. So what I'm getting at is, what about when things change in your drawing and you have, there's a change in the geometry? So let's make a couple additional lot lines here. Okay, if I run Label Genie again, first of all, it's going to remember all the previous settings. that I just executed on. What you may not have noticed is there's an add/update label. So Label Genie just doesn't insert a bunch of labels, it actually refreshes or update labels or label sets, if you will, right? So the same criteria is in here, label polylines on this layer. If we execute this again, it's going to identify that there's a whole bunch of polylines, and now there's some new ones as well. Okay, the same styles, we'll hit add to this, and now it's going to say we're going to add 2 labels and update 123. Do you want to proceed? Yes. It goes ahead and does that. Now the numbers change. We've got 2 added, 123 updated. I hit OK to this. Notice it didn't change the drag state, but it did add new labels where there weren't labels before. So it's all based on that label criteria. Now, labeling lot lines and boundary lines like this, we often have different styles for different segments. Say we want distance only along the right-of-way inside the lots, and then on the outside we want to label the bearings. And so if we launch Label Genie again and come in here, and this time instead of the side lot lines, I've got right-of-way lines. Now they're line and curve labels, so they're just based on your geometry. So depending on what you're after, that's how your geometry has to be drawn. So we're going to grab the front of the lots, and in this time we're going to insert a distance label style like this. I'll hit add, 142 labels, say yes to that, boom, everything comes in. Remember that flip state I was talking about? Here's the point of Label Genie is you can insert everything. If you don't like it, you can just come back here and change it. So let's say all of these, we actually want to flip these to the other side. You can hit add to this. It's going to update 142 labels. And there we go. Let's do one more label type here. We're going to come in here. This time it's not lots, the front lots. We're going to grab the outer boundary, and then we're also going to grab the right-of-way itself here. So I turn on my selection cycling because I've got some completed polylines that represent my right-of-way. So I've got multiple layers in there, and you can use wildcards in here like an asterisk. You can separate things by commas, you name it. It'll find that. I can hit check again. It finds that there's 7 objects of this type in here. I hit OK. And what we're going to do this next time, or before we add these in, I want to mention something new here again, which is the label template option. A lot of the stuff you repeat from one drawing to the next or from one project to the next, right? You're always putting these lot lines on a particular layer. You always want to use the same style, right? You make these drawings from template or templates that you keep at your organization. So when I get this stuff set the way I want, including the filtering in here, including the styles over here. So this is going to be the right-of-way and the outside boundary. This is going to be a bearing and distance, the distance radius, and we'll flip these all, okay? Before I execute on this, I can run the option to create a new label template. So I click New File, click Save, and we'll save this out as boundary and right-of-way segment labels, okay? And what that does is it saves an external file. Right here, it's a .lg file. In fact, these are just JSON files. They're text-based files that you can, in fact, edit through a text editor if you wanted to, so they're very universal, easy to work with, okay? But I can save that out, and that now becomes available in my drop-down list. Where that drop-down list is pulling from, you simply set a path right here where it will read external templates. So I've got that set. Let's go ahead and execute on that one. That'll be 30 labels. and you can see all those insert at once. Okay. Now Label Genie does a ton of work for you. It's still expected that you may want to do a few tweaks, right? Slide this along. Okay. All we're doing with Label Genie, I shouldn't say all we're doing, but what we're doing is taking the native tools that are normally a really manual thing, and we're allowing you to program out that single process for hundreds or thousands of labels all at once. Now, how does that? Let's see how that templating would work. Let's go make another template. In fact, let's do one for those side lot lines. This is where we chose this layer, and we chose the bearing over distance and the distance over radius, and we didn't have a flip state on this. So you can set that up, and let's make a new template there as well. We'll save that out. Okay. So you can save those templates at any time if you know it's something you will reuse. And then the way it works is I'm going to go into a second drawing, which is basically a replica, but say this is a different project, right? And we have some of those same labeling scenarios. When I launch Label Genie, these options become available. Those templates show up here. So side lot segments, I select that, click load. Notice when I do that, all these settings change down here, including the filtering within. So I load it, I hit add labels, boom, for my labeling standard, all those labels come in at once. We have the other template, the boundary and right of way, load that, add update labels, and I'm on my way. Okay, now if you need to tweak it for this project, it's slightly different, you want a different style, you just launch it again and change your style down here or your flip state. Maybe this was to be away from centroid. Okay, it's based on the object itself, but now it flipped those away from the centroid. The template is something you load, and then you can tweak the settings from there to make it work for that particular drawing or that project. Okay, that's line and curve labels. I showed you templates a bit. Let me show you one other option, then we're going to make things more complex. We're going to go into some sheet drawings where we've got XREFs and data shortcuts and all kinds of things going on. So I wanted to show you one other label type, and that would be Mtext. Now we can insert Mtext on all sorts of things. We can insert it on our closed polylines right here. We've got some closed lot lines here. We could be labeling areas on those. But what if you have hatching, for example? You want to call out the areas of a bunch of existing pavement or something of that nature, right? In this case, we're going to take all this hatching here of concrete and medians, and we just want to call out the area of all of those. Now that would normally be a very tedious process, creating Mtext and fields and so forth. But with Label Genie, again, it becomes pretty simple. So we're going to do multi-line text. We're going to choose a filter based on a layer. So only grab hatches on that layer. And if I run the check here, I find out, okay, there's 21 hatches. Hit OK. We're going to insert and attach to the centroid. And I can go in the Formatting tab, and let's create a Mtext formula or text field here. So here's I can insert some custom text. Maybe it's 4-inch concrete. We'll insert a new line, and then we'll insert the hatch area itself. And then after that, I'm going to insert not a new line, but just another piece of text where we'll put space SF for square feet. And it gives you a little preview of what it looks like down here. 4-inch concrete on one line, and then the area with the SF suffix afterwards. Coming down here, because it's Mtext, there's a lot of formatting options, right? Civil 3D styles, you have a lot of that stuff built in the style. But when it's Mtext, It's basically defining the font, some obliquing, and just a few things, right? So we give you all those options in here. What's your style, your text style to choose from? Is it annotative? What's the justification? For the display height, we'll do 0.15. That's your text height. When it's annotative, that'll be your paper text height. The display width, that's the actual width of the Mtext entity. Let's say, let's put it at 1. And then capitalization, orientation options. This one's important if we're labeling sheets, like we do in a bit. It'll orientate the Mtext to whatever twist you might have or rotation you might have in that viewport. I can orient to the object or to the world coordinate system. We'll stick with the view. And then rotations, offsets, a variety of other things. I'm going to also choose the background mask because I've got hatching and I want to hide that. I'm going to hit add labels. I think I've got everything set right. That'll be 21 labels. Hit yes and OK, and everything comes in like that. You can see the masking there. Or maybe it came in and you say, well, that's not the right size text. Okay, you just run it again. Say, well, that should have been 0.1 in fact, and we can make it a bit narrower, say 0.7. Hit add update labels. Now it's saying this will update 21 labels. And as I hit yes here, you'll see the text change to the smaller size. Okay. Something that, these are centroids, so it's reading this geometric centroid of that. So you can always tweak things, move them around a little bit. So that's Mtext. And like I'd shown you, Mtext will insert on all sorts of things. So there's quite literally dozens and dozens of label combinations between your labels and your anchor objects right now. We are in fact building out more and more. We've got another release of Label Genie coming out in a short time, where we will build out more and more label types and anchor objects. But right now there's a ton of stuff in here. So we're excited what Label Genie is going to do. We expect it to be automating on basically any kind of project in Civil 3D, about 85% of your annotation. There's another point to it too as well. I talked with a number of people on this, and talk about standardization, how your plans look for your company, right? And when you have to define and choose all these little things every time, one person's drawings often look quite a bit different than someone else's. Well, if you can kind of program that standard into templates like this, it really helps kind of program in how this stuff is supposed to look. Now, I know there's unique stuff from one project to the next, and maybe even one project manager wants it looking different than the next. But where we can standardize that stuff, Label Genie will do it for you automatically, because you can just plug it right into these templates. Let's jump to a sheet scenario. Okay, we were labeling single drawings at once, and I told you can label multiple drawings. Okay, first I wanted to give you the feel of how Label Genie works. All we're going to do now is change and expand our drawing selection set, right? Instead of labeling just one drawing, we're going to label multiple drawings, and we're going to take into consideration different layouts. So I've got a small sample set here of 2 drawings, and in each one I've got 2 layouts. And we're going to label some of the blocks in here. And what might we want to do? We can insert Mtext on them. There's all kinds of things we could do. Let's say I want to do alignment, station, and offset labels on these blocks. I'll go into Label Genie, and here's where some of this changes, right in the drawing selection here. What am I going to label? I'm going to label the current drawing, but I also want to include an additional drawing. And so there's a couple options here. I can click the plus button and simply browse out to one or more drawings. I can hit the include all open drawings. If I do that, it grabs all the drawings I have open. Okay, a few different options there. I'm going to do that, and then I'm just going to remove the drawings I don't want in my consideration. So I've got two drawings, the current one and then the additional one. Now the way XREFs work is they're basically lumped into the drawings you might choose up here. If there are XREF, you simply check this on, and what it means is that objects in those XREFs will be considered when selecting your anchor objects. So now filtering, layer filtering or object name filtering, that's going to read not just the current drawing, but also those XREFs. Data shortcuts, like surfaces or alignments, those will be pulled right in here as well. So they'll be all part of that selection set that you can choose from to anchor things to or to read data from. Down here in that layouts option, before we were doing label entire model space, let's do label all layouts. We do have this option as well where we could label selected layouts. And when I click that, it's going to open up a nice option where it shows me all the layouts in all of the drawings I've selected. Maybe I only want to label certain sheets and certain drawings. Okay, you have all that control now. You also have viewport control. What if you were you have multiple viewports on each sheet, but you only want to perhaps label the primary one, right? You can control that here as well. Now we said we were going to do station offset labels, so let's go and choose that, alignment, station, and offset. Let's attach these to blocks. You just want to call out station offset on some blocks. And I'm in fact going to do it on all of the blocks in these drawings. So we're going to remove any filtering we might have. I click the check button again. Now you see the screen starting to flash because this is having to scan and read multiple drawings now. In fact, there's 2 sheet drawings, and in each sheet drawing, there are 3 XREFs. And it's finding 103 block objects that it can label. Anchor point will go to the centroid. And then the required object, this shows up when you choose an object like station and offset labels. That's based on alignments. Surface spot elevation labels, I'll show you those briefly. Those require a surface, right? So we can anchor to one object like the blocks, but where does it read its station and offset from? That's the required object right here. So I can come in here and I can filter by any number of things. Let's say I want it all based on this alignment, the main road running through the development. I happen to know that one's called Evergreen. I can run a check on this, and it found one evergreen alignment in each drawing. That sounds good. Hit OK to that. Hit OK here. Come to my formatting tab. Now these are Civil 3D station offset labels, so again, there isn't data contents here. Though we are going to add a feature where you can override Civil 3D label fields with custom text that you would spell out here. That'll be coming in a release real soon. I'm going to choose a style of station and offset, and for my markers, we'll do no markers. I've got offset options here. This will put it into drag state, and then I can actually rotate it if I wanted to as well. So I'll hit add labels. Runs through multiple drawings. Says this will add 38 labels. Say yes to proceed. Found 38 labels in the first drawing and no labels in the second one. So let's take a look at that. We'll hit OK to this. Looks like some of my filtering may not have been right. So you can see the labels came in. But let's go ahead and try that again. This is the beauty of Label Genie. If you didn't set something the way you want, you can simply come back in here and change anything you might want. I think I've got everything removed here. Filters, Evergreen. I think it's called Evergreen in the other one. Go to the formatting tab. Hit add update labels. 38 labels. We'll say yes to that. Hit OK. Yeah, I'm not sure what setting I had wrong there, but you can see it inserting the station offset labels on all of these blocks. You can look at the other layout here. All these blocks, I've got street lights, different trees here, okay, a variety of things. What about multi-leaders? Let's say we're not calling out station offset, but we just want to label some of these objects here. Let's remove these instead. Let's say we just want to call out Mleaders on these street lights. We just simply want to label that as light. Well, if you have a lot of those blocks across multiple drawings, that gets to be pretty tedious, right? Let's come back here and let's do a multi-leader label. Oh, I think I had the layout selection wrong. Anyway, we've got the same two drawings. I'm going to include the XREF. We're going to label all layouts. This time we're going to do multi-leaders. We will attach them to blocks. This time I just want to label blocks of a certain name. If you're not sure of the exact name, again, you can just use wildcards, the asterisk. If you know it has the word light in it, if you're not sure, you can click the check button. And it'll tell you, look, I found 18 of these in each drawing. Sounds good. We're going to insert at the origin. Then on the formatting tab, perhaps I just want some custom text where I just call out light or street light or something like that. Now, because it's a multi-leader, by default, it's just going to come in like non-drag state, or the leader will be real small. So these offsets are what give you control on where it will be dragged to. So I'm going to use a style of annotative. I'm going to orientate to the view. Here's where we'll see this come into play a bit. And then the offset, I want it to be labeling kind of the top left of this, this block here. So I'm going to kind of take a guess at this, how much we need to offset it. Maybe 15 feet, 15 units up and 35 units to the left. And we'll hit add labels to this. And we should see a bunch of Mleaders come in. Okay, and you can see it labeling all these different blocks in there. Now notice my north arrow over here, okay? There's actually a twist or a rotation to this viewport. Because I selected orientate to view, it's not, right? It's not rotating the world coordinate system. It's actually aware of the viewport orientation, and it'll insert it accordingly. If we look on this sheet, it oriented to this view. And you can really notice it if you look at it in model space, because we'll see these labels rotated, okay? So we're labeling blocks that are in an XREF, but we're inserting our annotation in our sheet files. Okay, so lots of different options there, labeling in base files, sheet files, you name it, it's a combination of both. We can do anything we want there. Let's do one other thing here. Perhaps calling out, we did station and offset. Let's call out some northing and easting and elevation labels. Maybe you're calling out some points. Maybe there's no elevation, it's just northing and easting. Well, surface spot labels work great for that. But again, those you have to click and insert one at a time everywhere. So I'm going to insert a bunch at once. We'll come up here, we'll keep the same selection set. We'll label all of our layouts. time I'm going to grab a surface spot elevation. I'm going to attach it to polylines. And I just want to attach it to the side lot. Again, you can always put the wildcards if you're not sure exactly what the name of the layer it is that it might be on. And there I can see I picked up 124 polylines in each drawing. That sounds good. The anchor point will be vertices. Now I can jump into here. What vertices of the polylines do I want? Okay, I could label everything, but all I'm after are the endpoints of these lot lines here. So I'm just going to do beginning and end of the object. I'll hit OK. Now, if you're calling out elevation in this, we can filter that by the text EG or whatever kind of name you might have in your surface name. You could do it by layer, you could do it by all sorts of things. I'm going to do it, and what this means is any surface or whatever surface has the name, the text EG in it, in all of these drawings to label both drawings, use that as the reference surface for the surface spot elevation label. Come to this side here where the formatting is. I'm going to choose a northern easting elevation label. We'll do a basic circle with a cross. Okay, and let's actually do some rotation on this. We'll do a 45-degree rotation as well. Okay, so we're inserting across multiple drawings, multiple layouts at one surface spot so that we can get northern and easting labels on these lot lines. I hit add to this. It's going to scan both those drawings. It always runs a scan of the drawings so I can give you an exact report about what's going to happen. This is your chance to say, oh, no, there shouldn't be 214. I should only expect 25 labels or something, right? Then you know you perhaps set something wrong. So we're trying to give you a lot of information along the way. So this will add 214 for us. That sounds right. We'll hit yes to this. And I'll hit OK. And there is all those labels that came in. You didn't want to rotate at 45 degrees. Run it again. Go back to 0. Add. And it will refresh everything based on those latest settings. Update 214 labels. Goes through both drawings. Okay. So a lot going on with Label Genie. We're inserting these labels in a sheet drawing based on polylines that are an XREF, based on a surface that's a data shortcut. There's that EG surface. That's what the reference elevation is. Okay. So Label Genie is very flexible in this way. We can read data from one or many drawings at once and orchestrate labeling scenarios in ways that turn what can be hours, if not days of labeling, we can turn it into just a matter of minutes. Notice it just did it where these viewports appear, right? So we're labeling by sheet, by layout, which means it doesn't label outside of the viewport. I take this, unlock this viewport, right? There's no spot elevation labels down here because it's based on the viewport or the layout limitations. So that's what labeling by layout means, is it trims it to just the viewports there. And it also gives you that opportunity to orientate it relative to the sheet itself. So that's some of what I wanted to show you guys today. I hope a lot of that looks interesting to you. I'm really excited about Label Genie. It's something I've thought about for a long time. We worked a lot on, and we're really excited about this release that is out there now. It's part of the CIM Project Suite. So if you're wondering how you get your hands on it, it's, like I said, it's in the Project Suite. If you're a current license holder, all you got to do is download the installer from the About menu, which you can find in any of the apps of any of the suites. Just download it, run the installer, you'll get the new one. Okay. If you don't own this in Project Suite, you just got to get in contact with your reseller. In the US, that's ATG. In Canada, that is SolidCAD. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great day, and let me know if you have any further questions after the fact. You can always contact us, and we will get back to you right away. So Thanks again and take care.